Welcome to It's Your Business. I'm Gary Alfonso. Installing a computer network or a linked computer system is one of the most significant expenses any small or medium-sized company will make. The average cost of installing 15 to 20 computers linked with one another in the outside world could run to between 80 and 100,000 rand. May not sound like much, but the minute you start having problems, the real costs start accumulating. And to make things worse, large network companies won't even pay attention to your needs if your business is too small. We'll be talking to the experts on this issue in a short little while, but first this insert on the problems small companies face when they install a network system.
Johannesburg-based public relations company TSPR became a fully-fledged small company about 10 years ago. The firm had several large JSE-listed companies as clients, so in order to serve their needs best, they had to invest in a decent computer network.
A lot of my equipment was really patched together. Not necessarily that the equipment itself was poor quality, but that we never had really very good advice.
Most small companies echo the point that large network providers don't have the time to service their network needs. But as communication becomes more and more technology-based, even small companies have to compete.
When we went on to email, we were given something called an email switch, which, as I recall, cost over 5,000 rand in itself, which was apparently unnecessary, never worked. We still have this box to remind us of the mistakes that you can make. And in fact, our whole email function was pretty dodgy at that stage.
IT and network support companies advertise daily that they have the solutions for you. But TSPR is one of the many companies which has fallen victim to so-called fly-by-night operators.
Once it came to a matter of giving us the backup and our running into any problems, they either were really not capable of coping or disappeared. And that seems to happen quite a lot, that you have small people set up and then disappear off the scene altogether, and no one left to service your needs.
TSPR also shares the view that most small companies muddle their way through their IT needs. Most can't afford an IT administrator on their full-time staff, so outsourced deals have to be solid. Advanced technology is standard throughout communications firms around the globe these days. So even small companies require network security, speed and reliability. TSPR says they finally found a network and IT company which serves their niche market, but past mistakes have been expensive.
I'd say it's impossible to get your money back, because there will always be a reason why that company cannot be made responsible for the faulty advice that they gave you. And it really is worth outsourcing the whole of one's IT needs if you can find the right sort of company. And it seems now at last we're beginning to get professional companies filling that gap.
No doubt there are some serious problems in the world of IT system support for small and medium-sized businesses. So the experts joining us on It's Your Business tonight are the President of the IT Association of South Africa, Adrian Schofield, and the Managing Director of a company which has found a niche for itself in this environment, Orrin Klopper, the MD of Netsurit. Adrian, if I could start with you, first of all, it seems there are some problems. So as far as the ITA are concerned, how are we going to remedy this over the coming months and years, not to let companies fall victim to unscrupulous operators?
Gary, it's been a sad fact for the IT industry over many years that there have always been suppliers who didn't measure up to their customers' expectations. And that's why the ITA came into being quite a few years ago, to enable customers to select companies that subscribed to code of ethics, that gave the customers some recourse if things didn't work out the way they were expected to. Perhaps we have been remiss in not publicizing ourselves sufficiently, but we have stood for the sort of consumer protection at all levels over a number of years.
Can I just still continue there on that point quickly? I mean, the ITA, if one actually looks at consumer bodies and bodies that protect people against this, do you honestly have teeth to actually act against those sort of issues? Where do you think a body like that should be going and to actually deal with people that have ripped others off?
Well, we've always tried to provide good advice and to save the consumer from the expense of having to take legal recourse, because generally speaking everybody loses out when that becomes necessary. And certainly if a customer is dealing with our members and they have a valid complaint, we have the full sort of mediation and arbitration service to resolve that.
Orrin, obviously you're the head of a company that actually found a niche for itself simply because there's such a huge gap. What is the problem like out there at the moment as far as companies that have basically invested in equipment and networks and stuff they basically can't use anymore?
I think it's quite subtle. To call it, in most cases, you could actually term it a rip-off. It's a little bit more subtle than that sometimes. They will oversell a solution. A client will not need a particular solution and they will be sold that solution, and it can be termed overkill. Or often the scenario is they may sell a relatively good solution and the company is not around in 3 months' time. Maybe they haven't gone bankrupt, but they've been bought out by one of the bigger IT companies, or suddenly they become a web development company. These are issues that, being an SME, they have to find a partner, someone they can actually call on an ongoing basis to actually say, look, we would like to expand. So that sustained IT presence is not there for an SME, where they can actually have a partner who they can call on consistently, because these companies seem to fluctuate and sort of move in and out of the market. There is not, well, there could be, but not to my knowledge, a company that has clearly identified this market and have a sustained presence in this market. So when someone does want to put in a 15 to 20 PC network, as you say, it's top of mind. They know of a company that focuses solely on that. Because often you find, Gary, what happens is a company that does focus on that market, it's only for a temporary period of time, because suddenly they realize that the bigger companies represent more income, and then they suddenly drop the smaller companies and move on to the bigger companies. So at Netsurit, our core focus is to maintain and sustain a presence in the SME market.
And just very quickly, still on that point, why won't big companies pay attention to small clients? Obviously, hundreds of small clients also represent a big one.
I think you have to look at the relationship that is necessary with each client, and the psychology and the mentality that large corporates are using is that if you have one company spending R1 million a month, okay, that is one relationship to manage. If you have 100 companies spending however much money a month, you have to manage 100 relationships. So it is it's common knowledge that smaller businesses are actually harder to serve because there are more of them. And the simple concept of supporting 100 computers on one site or supporting 100 computers on 10 different sites, it makes a lot of sense. So the larger corporates or the companies focusing on the larger business have taken this into mind, and that is part of their focus. Is obviously the bigger guys are spending more money. They really are. And I think just to quickly actually elaborate on that, if you look at the small business market right now, they're frustrated and not spending as much as they would for the simple reason that the solutions that were delivered to them last year didn't work out. So why this year must I spend again? That's what they're saying in their mindset. So I believe...
Can I come in on that point?
No problem.
Exactly. And Adrian, the point is, how do we get small and medium businesses to actually start having the confidence to go for it, and to go for companies that have reputations that can serve that? Obviously, you guys receive complaints and issues from both ends.
Yes, Gary, I think there are two important points here. One is to select the right partner. As Orrin says, you've got to deal with somebody who's going to partner you in your business. This 80 or 100,000 Rand you're going to spend is a major investment, and you need to see the return on that. The other is not to expect too much for too little. We are used to seeing cheap computer solutions being advertised. The supplements fall out of the newspapers every day. But you can't buy a workable business solution for the same price as you can buy a toy you're going to stick on your children's table in their bedroom at home. And there is a sort of question of scale here. You must expect to pay for what you need, and it doesn't come cheap, unfortunately.
Gentlemen, thanks very much. We've unfortunately run out of time, but obviously something needs to be done, and hopefully, Adrian, if I could be as bold as saying, hopefully associations like yours will have more teeth in future to act on unscrupulous characters in the industry.
The more people that come to us with complaints, the more teeth we are likely to have.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's it for tonight's edition of It's Your Business. You can catch an update on the latest issues facing small and medium businesses on Summit Television every weeknight. And we'll have more success stories and opportunities in the coming weeks. Bye for now.